Hello everyone, I'm Tara, the dance doctor. Welcome to my channel. In today's lesson, I am teaching you how to strut like a dancer. When we're dancing, we use walking constantly, whether it be part of your choreography or walking onto the dance or competition floor, or just a way to fill a few counts between other movements. It's something that all dancers should know how to do well, and a concept that I don't feel gets taught enough, which is why I made this video. In this lesson, I teach you how to strut in all four directions: forward, back, left, and right. And at the end of the video, I give you a little practice routine for your strut where we use all of the directions. As always, I have timestamps in the description box below if you want to skip ahead or go back and see something again. Also, if you love my content and you want to get early access to my videos, or you just want to support my YouTube dance school, you can go to my Patreon page and become a member. The link to that is also in the description box below. We're going to get right into the lesson. I just want to remind you to give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the post notifications so you can see when I upload more stuff like this. Now let's get dancing. All right, so we're ready to get right into our sexy strut, or how to walk like a dancer. We're going to be covering four directions: forward, right, left, and back today. And we're going to start with the most intuitive one, which is just the walking forward. So the very first thing, the most important thing for me when I'm thinking about a dancer's strut is the flexion and extension of the knee. That's the thing that really gives us a nice line in the leg, and it actually influences what our body does as well. So we're going to start by talking about that as it applies to our forward walk. So when I talk about flexion and extension of the knee, my knee is going to bend as it passes and straighten before I change my weight onto that foot. This is very important when we're thinking about our strut or our dancer's walk, that we aren't going onto a kind of ambiguously bent, not totally straight leg. It's really important to get that nice extension in the leg, straighten, and then walk onto it. It bends as it passes. This is also very important because this is a beautiful shape. And then it also highlights the next part of the walk, which is when I extend my knee and then walk onto that foot. So I bend and I extend and walk. Bend, extend, change weight. Bend, extend, change weight. Okay, so let's try that again. Starting with whatever foot feels good to you, we go extend, change weight. Bend as much as you can. So I think about leading with this knee so I get this really nice shape in the legs. Then I extend and I change my weight. Bend, extend, change weight. Bend, extend, change. Bend, extend, change. Bend, extend, change. Okay? This is often difficult for salsa or swing dancers because we're so used to stepping onto a bent knee and then extending as we change our weight. So it's a different feeling, and it does take some practice to become natural, but I promise it's worth it because, as I said in the intro, of how much we use walking when we're dancing and all of the confidence and sexiness that it can add. Okay, so let's just try that one more time. So we go bend, extend, change weight. 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 Now, at this moment, I'm keeping my toe on the ground as I walk. There are going to be moments where we lift our feet up to walk, but for this moment, because we're just doing the very basic level, I want you to go ahead and keep your toe on on the ground. And the reason is because I want you to make sure that you're not lifting up the foot and taking a heel lead, because that's not how dancers strut. We always lead with the toe or the ball of the foot. That's going to be the first surface of your foot to come down onto the ground. That makes it look like a dancer's walk and not just walking down the street. So one more time, thinking about keeping that toe on the ground. So I drag, and now the ball of the foot comes down, and I change my weight. And toe, ball, change. Toe, ball, and making sure that we're still bending and straightening the knees at the appropriate time. Bend, straighten, bend, straighten. Okay? So that's what's happening in the feet and legs, and like I said, a little later in this video, we'll get into some other options, lifting the feet up off the ground. But first I'm going to talk about now what the hips are doing. So I bend, straighten, change my weight, and then I'm going to allow my hip to drop onto my standing leg. Okay? So I'm going bend, straighten, change weight, drop the hip. And when I drop the hip, I'm trying to keep that back leg nice and extended for that moment, so that I really get this moment of isolating the hip, which really brings attention to that part of the body, which is what we want. Whereas if I bent my knee also as I did that, it has a different look because I'm moving two parts of my body at once. As I've said many times in many other videos, when we isolate different parts of the body, that's when the movements really shine. So we're thinking about bend, straighten, change the weight, drop the hip. Bend, straighten, change, drop. Bend, straighten, change, drop. Bend, straighten, change, drop. Bend, straighten, change, drop. Okay? It's just like with everything that we do in our Latin social dancing, our toes are going to be turned out just slightly, so that when I bring my knee in to bend, to pass, my ankles are coming together. So I never want to be like this. This is a very undancerly position to be in. So we want to make sure that every time our feet pass, my ankles are coming together. I extend, hip, feet pass. The ankles come together, the knee goes straight forward. And step, 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 ankle, step, step, ankles. Okay? Try that again. We go bend, straighten, change, drop, bend, straighten, change, drop, bend, straighten, change, drop, bend, straighten, change, drop, bend, straighten, change, drop. Okay? One thing I want to mention before we practice this a little bit faster is what the arms are doing. So obviously the arms can do a grand variety of things when we're walking, because we're just walking. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to have them swing down at the sides, just so that you can feel the natural opposition in the upper body. Because that's another thing that gives us that attitude in this walk that we're looking for. So, as I swing, my left hand forward, my right foot is going forward, and I walk 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So I'm just allowing the arms to swing as they would if I were just walking down the street, but a little bit more exaggerated and a little bit more rhythmic. So the last thing that I want to talk about before we start to practice this a little bit more fluidly, a little bit more up to speed, is what's happening in the neck and the head. One of the things that can really add confidence to your dancing is what you choose to do with the position of your head. So when we're walking, I'm not just kind of allowing the head to bobble and go where it wants to go. when I'm doing my sexy strut, I'm always thinking about using a very specific focus with my eyes, and when I do that, I'm also tilting my chin down a little bit, because what that does is it lengthens my neck. As you can see, when my chin goes up, my neck gets short, so I want to lengthen my neck. And it also gives this air of confidence, like I'm looking down towards something instead of this. Whenever I look up, whenever people look up when they're dancing, it always, not always, because there are some movements that intentionally look up, but if they're just looking up out of habit, I feel like it gives them an air of being unsure of what they're doing. So I'm always trying to tilt my chin down a bit and kind of look. I'm not looking at the floor, but the angle of my eyes is going down just a little bit, the trajectory of my focus, and then I do my walk in that way. And as you can see, it has a different look than if I did this. Okay, so now I want to try and practice this a little bit more fluidly. We can apply the walking to any style of dance that you do, so the rhythm will vary, but what I'm trying to do as we practice this today is just find a steady medium speed rhythm so that you can get used to the movements that we've worked on, okay? So we're going to try this, going 8 walks forward. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? I'll do it from the side. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And now from behind, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now that we have the basic walk, I'm going to offer you some variations, some options that you can use. If the things that I've presented so far feel pretty comfortable and natural to you, you can add some of these variations. If the things that we've done so far don't feel natural quite yet, I recommend you keep practicing those concepts before you add in the variations. So one of the variations that I like to use a lot is an overcrossed walk. So I'm still moving forward, but instead of moving my foot directly in front of my hip joint, I'm crossing it over in front of the other foot. I'm not swiveling. As you can see, both of my feet are still facing forward. What I am doing is allowing this foot to cross. Still using the same technique as before. Bend, straighten, change weight, hip. Bend, straighten, change weight, hip. But I am exaggerating, overcrossing my walk, which gives it a different look. This is a good option if you're looking for a more exaggerated walk, or if you have a limited amount of space because you're not traveling as far forward as you were when you just walked straight forward. So that's one variation. Another variation, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is to lift the foot off the ground as much as it feels comfortable to you. So it could be very little. Yeah, so we could go 1, 2, just barely off the ground, or if you wanted to really exaggerate it, you could even bring your foot up into passe in between the walks. So it all depends on what feels good to you, what you think goes with the music that you're dancing to, a lot of different variables. But those are 2 options that I like to use sometimes when I am doing my strut. Okay, so now we're going to work on our sideways strut. Okay, so our technique is going to be very similar here. I'm still going to lengthen my leg before I walk onto it. That, like I said, is a common theme in all of the directions that we're practicing today. So I'm going to start by going in this direction. I straighten my leg, and then I change weight. And then I'm going to cross this leg over, change weight. And straighten, change. Bend, straighten, change weight. Bend, straighten, change weight. Let's go in the other direction. Bend, straighten, change weight. Bend, as you can see, I'm still bringing my ankles together in between. Then I cross over and I change weight. Bend, straighten, change weight. Bend, straighten, change weight. Bend, straighten, change weight. Bend, straighten, change. And let's try that again. Bend, straighten, change. 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 Other side. And. So this will move slightly forward because I do have to cross one foot in front, which is going to take me a little bit forward each time I cross, but the idea is not to move too far forward. I'm trying to keep my foot as close to the other one as possible. I don't want to step forward. I really do want to think about a progressive side movement. Now, my hip movement in the side strut is going to be a little bit different than the forward and back, because instead of changing my weight and then moving the hip, I'm actually going to lead with the hip as I step out. So I lead with the hip as I straighten my knee, and then I change my weight. And then this one is the same as the forward walk. So I'm straightening, and then I change my weight and move my hip over to this side. But when I'm moving my foot out to the side, I'm leading with the hip, and the hip goes second. And lead with the hip, and then the hip goes as I change my weight. Let's try that to the other side. So I go lead with the hip, step, step, hip, hip, step, step, hip, hip, step, step, hip. Let's try that again. I'll do it facing away. So we go hip and the lengthening of the knee and change weight. Step, change weight and move the hip. Hip and the knee and step, change. Hip and the knee and step, change. Let's try it again to the other side. Hip and the knee and step, change. Hip and the knee, step, change. Hip and the knee, step, change. So just like we did in the forward walk, the arms are going to be going opposite of the foot that's stepping. So when I step on my right foot, my left hand comes forward and vice versa. So I go out and out and out. And the same thing applies with the head and the neck as well. So I go and, okay? So let's try that a few times, me facing away at a little bit faster, more fluid speed. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in my side strut, I am already using the crossing over theme that I used as a variation in the forward walk, but we can also employ this lifting of the foot as we walk if you'd like to as well. So that's another option, to go and lift with all the same techniques, but just adding that lift as the foot comes through instead of keeping it dragging on the ground. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm still sending the hip, but the difference is now the foot's not on the ground to give me support and my balance. So I really have to be confident with the counterbalance of the rib cage and the hip. as my hip goes, as it leads me into that movement, my rib cage is going in the opposite direction so that I don't fall onto that foot right away. So that's an important thing to keep in mind if you are using that foot lifting variation. Moving on to the back strut, this is probably the one that you would use the least, but it is still good to know because you may use it at some point in your dancing, and so it's just good practice to practice all four directions to make us nice, well-rounded, sexy strutters, okay? So the same idea applies, that I'm going to bend and then straighten my knee and then change my weight. So I just want to first practice that concept moving backward because it's often pretty difficult for people, more difficult than moving forward actually. So we go bend, straighten, change weight. 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 Making sure that our ankles are passing through in the middle, that we're not ending up like this. So I go bend, straighten, change. Bend, straighten, change. Bend, straighten, change. Bend, straighten, change. So I feel as though I'm sending my foot behind me, and then I move my body onto it. Send it behind you, move onto it. Send it behind you, move onto it. And step, okay? So let's just try that last time, and then we'll talk about what the hips are doing. So we go step, change. Bend, straighten, change. Bend, straighten, change. Bend, straighten, change. Send that foot back, and then move your body onto it. Okay? So now, the hips are going to do the same thing that they did in the forward strut, which is they're going to move onto the standing foot as I change my weight onto that foot. So I go step, change. Bend, straighten, 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 change. Bend, straighten. And as I change, as you can see, my hip is moving onto my standing leg. Now you have the option here to keep the front leg bent, straight, or you can bend it into this nice delayed walk position, which looks like this. So we can go bend, straighten, change, bend, straighten, change, bend, straighten, change, bend, straighten, change. Or if it's more comfortable, you can keep your front leg straight, point those toes on the ground before you move your foot back. So that is up to you, whatever feels better to you. They both have a nice strutting feel about them, okay? And as always, the opposite hand is going to move forward as I move back, okay? This is probably going to feel a little bit strange moving backward because we're not used to moving backward just in our daily life. So we want to practice that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Okay? So we're still getting those arms swinging because that's an important part of any strut, is allowing the whole body to be a part of it. Okay? And then the last thing that's available to you, just like with the other two, is to lift the foot up off the ground in those transitions. If that's something that feels good to you, you can definitely do that. And just like the forward walk, we also have the option to cross the foot behind when we're walking instead of walking straight back. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, instead of doing my walk straight back, in addition to also having the option to lift the foot. And I didn't mention this before, but we can also combine those two. So I'm lifting and crossing, which is a very exaggerated option, but one that you may want to use. So let's practice this back strut a few times using any of the variations that I've mentioned that feel right. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So do it to the side. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And now facing you, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now to finish the lesson and to help you kind of put everything that you learned together, we're just going to do a fun little strutting practice routine, which looks like this. We're going to go forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you can start over. So we're just making a little square with our strut square. So I'll do it facing away. I'm going 4 steps forward, starting with my right, although I encourage you to start this routine on both sides. It's very simple, just so you get used to using your strut in all the directions that we'll use it in. But I'm starting on my right, so I'm going to start over here. So I'm going forward, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to send my right foot out to the side. 5, cross 6, 7, cross 8. Now I'm going back. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to cross my right over. 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I can start over going forward. So we can do this a few times in a row without having to start over. So let's try that now. I'm going to do it 3 times, and then we're going to try it with music. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and so if you have only a small amount of space wherever you're practicing this, I encourage you to use that crossing technique in the strut when you're going forward or back so that you can save space and you're able to do the entire routine. Okay, so now let's try it with music. 5, 6, ready, much for joining me for today's lesson. Leave a comment below and let me know how you did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications for my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at Dance Doctor Online. Until next time, keep dancing.